Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates, with your host, Cindy Gellermini.
Hi, everybody. This is Cindy with another episode of Spectrum Perspectives. And today we are going to be interviewing Johanna, who is an attorney, but she's also a special needs mom. So we're going to talk to her about her son and everything that she does for a living as well. But first, I want to welcome you, Johanna. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm very excited to be here today.
I'm so happy that we met. So I'm going to interview you like I do everybody else, and we start all the way from the beginning. So first of all, you have a son with autism. What is his name?
Aiden.
Ian?
Aiden.
Aiden. Okay. A-I-D-E-N? I'm going to write this.
A-I-D-A-N.
A-N. Okay, because I'm going to write that. I'm going to cut this out, but I'm going to write on the bottom. Okay, Aiden. Okay. So let's say that again. Okay, so what's your son's name? Aiden. All right. So let's talk about when you were pregnant with Aiden. How old is he?
18.
He's 18. Okay. So when you were pregnant with him, did the pregnancy go okay? Were there any kind of red flags, anything that the doctor said could be?
There were several things that happened. I bled twice in the first trimester and almost lost Aiden.
Oh.
And when I was 8 months pregnant, I got into a car accident where a car hit me head on my passenger side while I was driving, and I went into labor. I was in the hospital. The labor stopped and I was able to go home, and I had to be on bed rest, and Aiden was born 10 days later. He was 3 weeks early.
Okay. All right. And then, yeah, so my next question is about the birth. You know, it's like, how did that go? So you just told us that. So then how were his APGAR scores okay? Like, were there any signs at birth that something could be wrong or no?
No, the only thing is they didn't do the hearing test correctly, so they weren't sure about his hearing. That was it. Everything else was fine.
Okay. And then how about his development? Did he crawl on time, walk on time?
He did not crawl appropriately. He crawled on his tummy like a sniper crawl.
Yes.
And I should have known that that was a red flag. When Aiden was a baby, like from when he was 5 months old, I was able to put him in one spot in front of the TV and he didn't move. And I thought, wow, I have such a great baby. He's just staying there. I could leave him. I would go to the bathroom, do my hair and makeup, and no, red flag.
Right.
He wasn't talking. He was saying sounds, but he never said ma. He never said mom, mommy. He never said dad, daddy. And when he was about 13 months old with no words, I knew something was definitely wrong with him.
Mm. And he's your only child or no?
No, I have a younger son.
Oh, younger. Okay. So he was your first child.
He's my first one, Aiden. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just because there was nothing really to compare to, you know, like I always wonder sometimes first time moms don't really know the difference, you know, and they catch on a little later, or I don't know.
You don't. You know, I was a first-time mom. I had no clue what I was doing.
Right.
So, and Aiden had many, many medical issues. From when he was a month old, he got ear infections, and they were horrible, just horrible. And I didn't take him to see an ears, nose, and throat specialist until he was a year old, and he had fluid in his ears. And the doctor said to me, he's not hearing everything right. And I was like, oh my God, it's my fault. I'm a horrible mother. You know, he had 3 sets of tubes put in. He had his adenoids removed. He had his tonsils removed. He had sleep apnea, we thought, where he would only sleep 2 or 3 hours from when he was born, the day he was born, and then he would be up all night. And so that's why we took out his adenoids and his tonsils, but that didn't work.
Right. My son also had ear infections all the time too. Same thing. We thought he couldn't hear. He couldn't hear the high pitched sounds, you know, and I thought, oh, well, maybe when he gets the tubes in his ears and he can hear better, then he'll start talking. But that didn't happen either.
Right. That's what I thought too. So,
so how did we end up at the diagnosis of autism? How old was he, and who picked up on it?
So at 2 years old, on May 4th, 2005, he was diagnosed with classic autism by Dr. Kashup in Hackensack Speech and Language Institute. I remember that day vividly. I don't think I'll ever forget it.
I can't believe you remember the date.
It's like burned into my memory because I didn't believe it. And I told the doctor off when she said it. And
I can't imagine that.
And I picked up my son and I walked out. I'm like, you're wrong. You watched him for a whole 20 minutes and you're telling me he has classic autism? I go, I have a neurologist and my neurologist said he does not have autism. And I stormed out. And that was the day Aiden was diagnosed.
Wow. Wow. So he was 2.
He was 2, but at a year and a half, I had my ears, nose, and throat doctor write me a script to go to the Speech and Language Institute and get him evaluated.
Got it.
And I did. And my mother came with me. I was 6 months pregnant with my youngest son, and they couldn't even observe Aiden because of him running all over the place and crying and doing this and that. And my mother took him out and they said to me, Mrs. Burke, he has a severe speech delay and developmental delay. You need to go make an appointment with a developmental pediatrician. It took me 6 months to get that appointment. Wow. And he got diagnosed and I didn't believe it. And I got a second opinion from another developmental pediatrician and he has it.
So he said the same thing.
He said the same thing, except I didn't yell at him and walk out. So.
That's what I'm gonna ask. So what next? So he's 2 years old. So he's 19, so he's 12 years younger than Robbie. I'm just trying to think the difference in the services. So for me, as soon as he turned 3, I put him in school, but I didn't get him diagnosed till 2.5. And then we did the early intervention for 6 months. So what did you do after he was diagnosed?
Well, before he was diagnosed, I already started early intervention.
Okay, good.
In December before he was diagnosed.
And how did you know to do that?
I have friends in the field at the time who said to me, you got to go to early intervention and get that started.
Okay.
And so
did you bring him somewhere or did therapists come to the house?
Came to the house.
Okay.
They evaluated him. They approved him for ABA therapy. I think it was 25 hours a week. And we started after I had Daly. Daly was born December 8th. And we started the first week in January. So I had a newborn and I had Aiden with these therapists coming into the house and Aiden just crying hysterically because he didn't want to do what they said. And I would sit outside the room holding my son crying hysterically. So that's another memory that never goes away. But God
plus
bless
you're still
Aiden.
Hormonal too. You just had a baby.
Oh my God. And I had depression. I had postpartum depression and I would later be diagnosed with major depressive disorder and a severe anxiety disorder. So Aiden had early intervention for until he was 3. Then I had him evaluated and he started the Hawthorne School District in a full day ABA program with occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy.
So when he was 3 then? Okay, and was this a place just for autistic kids or?
This is a program solely for autistic kids where I live in Hawthorne.
Okay.
Our school district is one of the best school districts in the state. And
good to know because online I see people ask questions like on some of the autism pages that I follow, and people live in other states and they ask where should they move to get good services. So
Anywhere up here in northern New Jersey is excellent, just excellent. But
good to know.
I was very lucky with my school district, and quite honestly, because I have Esquire at the end of my name, I think everyone is afraid of me.
I was going to say they're afraid of you.
And gave me whatever I asked for. I mean, I'm a little loud, as you could see, and animated, and you know, direct and to the point. My son needs this. You're going to give it to him 3 times a week. Okay, Mrs. Burke, whatever you say. All right, we're good.
Okay, so then what? Did he go to school when he turned 5, or?
He stayed in the same program. He stayed in the autism program, but I have to tell you the backstory on this. So when Aiden started at 3, he had 50 words he could say when prompted. Like
really?
Car, buy, Dora, because he used to watch Dora the Explorer all the time. Never mom, never dad. But when he was at school, they would prompt him to say his words and he would do it. He was getting speech therapy 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Because I thought.
Would he do it for you? Would he say words for you, or only when he was in his program?
Only when he was at school. And I had them increase his speech to 5 times a week because I was hell bent on, I'm going to get him to talk. He's going to talk. This is going to happen. At 4 years old, I had him evaluated for verbal apraxia. And he was diagnosed with severe verbal apraxia. His brain doesn't connect with the muscles around his mouth to produce the sounds. At 5 years old, I told Hawthorne, he's been here 2 years. He has no more words, no language. I want him out of district. Okay, where do you want to send him? I want to send him, I can't name the school. It was one of the worst decisions I ever made for my son, because when he went there, he lost all his words. He didn't want to be there. They had 3 people on this little 5-year-old to get him into the building. They were restraining him in a chair to get him to sit there and comply. And I found this out, and I went in there and I'm like, that's it. He's going back to Hawthorne, and they're like, you have to provide some sort of documentation. No problem. I went to the Carbone Clinic. It's one of the most highly recognized clinics in New York. And I had him evaluated, a 2-day evaluation. His team came with me, my private speech therapist that I had at home, his teacher, and we sat for 6 hours every day. And the evaluation stated that the only form of therapy to work on Aiden is ABA nonstop in an autism program. So I had the documentation. I went back to the other school. They were not doing that. I got him moved back into the Hawthorne School District when he was 7. So he comes back. They created a classroom for him. And then they eventually filled up the classroom. And then as the years went on, Aiden was about another year, about 8 years old. He started throwing up every day at school. And he would have to go home. The nurse would call his father, because I was working full time and his father was home for reasons for privacy I'm probably not allowed to discuss. And he kept doing it day after day after day. And I was thinking to myself, my wheels are constantly turning. Why is he doing this? He's trying to tell me something. He didn't want to be there anymore.
Right.
He didn't want to be there.
I was going to say that because I went through that. I already knew the answer. Yeah.
So I went to look at out of district placements again. And I was very lucky to find Washington South in Paramus. It's part of New Bridges, that beautiful $1 million facility, high school. And Aiden did great there. He did great. And when he was done at Washington School, he started high school in this $1 million facility that had everything and anything you can think of there to help them learn daily living skills, vocational skills. And I was like, oh, this is great. He's going to do so good. Well, that really didn't happen. He he hit puberty. And nobody tells you about puberty. Puberty sucks.
Yes.
Puberty is horrid. It's horrid. And he started at 12. He started at 12, and my son became so aggressive. He was attacking us. He was hitting his head in the walls. He was punching walls. He was trying to break mirrors in our house. It was horrible, horrible. And Aiden was on a host of medications to begin with. He has a lot of other disabilities and medical conditions. I don't know if you want me to talk about it now, but I'll tell you about them too. But puberty from 12 to 15 were the worst years of dealing with his autism. And he always wanted to eat. So he only ate a limited amount of foods. He lived on Eggo blueberry waffles, chicken nuggets, pizza, goldfish, chips, and pretzels.
All the stuff he's not supposed to be eating, right?
Yes, and only drank water, which is great. Never drank anything else from when he had his tonsils out. And if you didn't give him his food, he attacked me. He would chase me around the kitchen.
Right.
At one point, we locked up all the food in our bedroom. And he would still attack us and want the food. I went to a nutritionist that dealt with special needs kids. She's like, switch to this one and try this and count out his goldfish. I went home and freaking counted out 50 goldfish, put it in a little baggie. This is all he's going to get. Oh, yeah. I tried everything and anything, you know, everything and anything. That didn't work.
Right.
He wanted 10 bags of goldfish. And if he didn't get it, forget it. By the time he was 15, he was 264 pounds. He was 5'5".
Oh.
He was built like a shit brick house. And when he would come after me, he attacked me one time, and Aiden would go for the face. So you knew when he was coming at you, you know, you had to protect your face. He came after me so fast. He latched onto my face and I couldn't get him off. And I'm screaming hysterically. My mother's there at the time. His father, both of them had to pull him off of me. And I'm bleeding and I have scratches down my neck on both sides of my throat, down my face. And then I knew I probably couldn't do this anymore. He was 14, but I was like, I'm doing it. I could do it. I'm going to get up again and I'm going to do it. And I did it for another year. And mentally, physically, emotionally, I was his primary caregiver. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it anymore. When he was 15, I had to have him placed in a group home. And it was the hardest decision of my life. But I did what was best for Aiden. Every decision I make since Aiden was born is built around that child. Not me, not my youngest son, not anybody else. It's all what's the best thing for Aiden? What's the best thing for him? And this, I knew was going to be the best thing for him and me, because I was at the point of having to be put into the hospital. It was either going to be me or him, and I wasn't going to put my son in a psych ward being nonverbal and not toilet trained and not being able to give himself a shower and make himself something to eat and require 24-hour care because he had epilepsy and he could have a seizure at any time, and he was having grand mal seizures at the time. So I moved him 2 hours away from me. It was the only placement available in the state of New Jersey. And I have to thank God, because I believe that everything happens for a reason. And that child has flourished and thrived. And he's happy, he's safe, and he's healthy. He lost 119 pounds because he eats whatever they put in front of him, and they make him healthy food. and he has portion control, and he doesn't have any aggressive behaviors, and he doesn't attack them. He sleeps through the night for the first time in 15 years, and he sleeps in his own bed. The kid never slept in his own freaking bed for 15 years. I slept on a recliner in my living room. Aiden slept on my couch, and I watched him. I didn't really sleep because, you know, as a mom, you're always listening, right? I'm listening for the seizure. I'm listening for it. I'm listening. When's he going to get up? When's he going to get up? Because I know the seizures are going to come at 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. And he would get up, and I would get up with him. And I was the one who stayed up with him all night long, some days 48 hours straight. And I would go to work and take care of my youngest son and bring him to school and do the homework and clean the house and do laundry every day, because Aiden's poop is everywhere. He doesn't keep it in his diaper. It's all over every single spot in the house. It's in my central air vents. It's in my washing machine because I washed it in his underwear, and then I dried it in the dryer. So I got to take it all out again and wash it all over again. Now it's 10 o'clock at night, and he's still up running rampant, and the little one is up running rampant, and I'm downstairs cursing out God, saying, I'm ready. I'm ready. Take me anytime, because my life is cleaning up shit. That's what it's come down to. I called myself the poop whisperer.
I'm trying to stay quiet so you can just tell your story, but we kind of had the same life. I mean, and I don't tell people all these details of how Robbie would get diarrhea every weekend. And I tell people, say, you know how when a baby gets diarrhea and it's all up their back and you get, okay, imagine that in a 19-year-old, okay? You don't understand. It's all over, and you get up in the middle of the night and the entire house reeks of diarrhea, and you got to get up and you got to go put it all in the laundry and clean him up and stick him in the shower. Or one time he stood up and just was like in a pile on the floor, and he walked down the stairs to go downstairs, and I get up in the middle of the night, and the stairs were wet, and I slid and fell all the way down the stairs because I slid on his poop all the way down the stairs. It's like, these are not stories you tell everybody else. I know. And then after the diarrhea or the vomiting all night, usually is followed by the seizure. So you're always on seizure watch, right? And that would lead to a 911 call and end up in the emergency room, right? Yeah, it's constant. You're living in trauma.
Yes.
Really. You're constantly in trauma.
Many people compare it to being a soldier in combat, all the time. You're on all the time.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And nobody gets it unless you've gone through it.
Exactly. And if your kid can go to the bathroom and wipe your ass, go and hug them now. You know, because you don't know how lucky you are. I used to tell people that all the time. I'm like, can your kid go to the bathroom and wipe himself? Well, then count your blessings there, Chief. Go give him a hug.
Right. Right. And you know what? It wasn't until Robbie went into the group home that he got up and went to the bathroom by himself without being told. And I was like, you stinker. I said, it's been 20 years. 20 years. You held out on me. You held out on me, and you were able to do this, and you just didn't? I don't understand. So let's talk about the group home that he moved into. So you're saying that he's doing really well. I did not have that experience. They were not good with him. They had no idea what they were doing. They never dealt with anybody with autism before, anybody that was nonverbal like him before. It was a disaster. He'd have a behavior. They didn't know what to do. They would call the police. I showed up, and they were taking him out of the house in handcuffs. And I said to the police officer, I'm like, you understand he has a mental capacity of a toddler, and you just took him out of the house in handcuffs. I said, do you have any training with people with autism? He said, no, we don't. I said, that's obvious. And then I shut my mouth because I didn't want to have a domestic dispute and end up in handcuffs myself. But I'm very curious to know about this group home. Have they had people with autism before? Did they have training in it? Like, how do they know how to handle him?
Aiden's in a group home that all the other children are the same as him.
Okay.
They're nonverbal. they have behaviors, they have medical conditions, they have the same, like, sensory disorders. Aiden has severe sensory integration. He's constantly running the group home floor. And so are the other ones.
Right.
I love it when I go there, because I go see him every weekend, and there's 3 of them in the living room, and who's saying noises and this and that, and I'm like, this is awesome. He's like in his element. He's friends. You know, I was very lucky to get staff who are trained. You know, as you said, I'm a special needs attorney, and I go out with families into group homes in New Jersey to make sure they are appropriate for their kids before they put them in there. Because New Jersey will tell you, DDD will be like, well, this is the only place available. That doesn't mean you have to put them there. Right. If you go see, Cindy, I have seen group homes that are literally disgusting, filthy. I met the staff who are in charge. They're clueless. They don't know what the F they're talking about. Right. They have no behavior plans in place. Right. Nothing. Right. I'm very blessed where Aiden is. And again, I'm going to have to tell you, I'm very well known in the state, my name, as a special needs attorney and advocate for families. Since 2013, I've been doing it. All the higher ups in the state know who I am, and they work with me on all of my clients, including my son. When I called DCF, the Division of Children and Family Services under the Department of Health and Services, and I told them, I am at the point you're going to have to put me in the psych ward for Aiden if you don't place him. My son was placed in 10 days at his group home. And so that's how he got there.
Unfortunately, it takes drastic measures like that.
It does, but you know what?
But people don't understand that, you know?
No, they don't.
You know, moms think, oh, you know, I think maybe he should just go into group home. I'm like, and it doesn't work like that. Unless you're ready to die or he's ready to die, it's not going to happen.
Exactly, because there's a waiting list with 8,000 people on it.
Right. Robbie was number 4,555 on the priority list. And then I found out through someone else that that's not the list. They have to be on the emergency list. That's beyond the priority list. And that was 11 years ago. So I'm sure it's, how many are on the list now? I'm sure it's doubled or
1,000. Yeah. Except, you know, parents need to know if their child is in danger of self-harm or the family is, you can get them into a crisis management group home like this if you hire me.
Yeah, I know. Well, where were you when I was going through this?
I wish I would have known you.
I needed you. I needed you. Do you know the first home they showed me was in Newark? It was across the street from the YMCA where the homeless people were. The out front was a broken sidewalk with a bunch of empty beer bottles on the sidewalk. I said, are you kidding me? I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I said, this is it. And I asked them that when they said they felt he belonged in a group home. I said, well, yeah, where I live in New Jersey in Union County, a lot of my county is not so great. I'm like, where are you planning on putting him? I said, I'm not putting him in Newark, you know, and they're like, well, you know, just get him in the system. And sure enough, first place they showed me is exactly what I said. Absolutely not. No way. My kid elopes. Do you think I'm going to let him elope and run through the middle of a gang? Yeah. Or on the highway? No. I'm like, what are you people thinking? No.
Yeah, they don't think because they don't live it.
No.
They don't live it. So, but Aiden, where he is, I always praise his group home supervisor. She's there every day and on call. And the staff that takes care of him, they take care of him and love him, and they hug him and they kiss him. Yeah. And they know what he likes. They know what he dislikes. And when I go there, I see it in my kid's eyes and his smile. Yes. He's happy there. Yes. You know? So,
I saw your post this past weekend and he looked so happy. So cute. That's it for part 1 of Johanna's story. Be sure to join us again for part 2, where we'll talk more about her career as a special needs attorney, how she helps other families, and about her nonprofit Fight for Autism.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of today's episode. Be sure to join us again next time to hear the second half of the interview on Spectrum Perspectives.